Pendlay was at one point the most famous weightlifting coach in the world. 10-day camp, 2-a-day workouts, every session was a max out session.
Every day when you walk in and out of the weight room, there's our record board. The school record was 245 pounds. I'm looking at that, I'm like, well, I just did 215. Maybe if I train really hard over the summer, I can come in and I can break that record.
And suddenly he's the #1 ranked junior in the country. At that point, like, the CEO of weightlifting tells me, we're done with this conversation. He will never make a team.
Hampton reaches out to me. He's like, hey man, like, would you want to come train sometime? You're going to the Olympics. Like, I don't really want to like mess up any of that. Get to watch Hampton compete, lost my mind, he won a medal. It was like a really surreal experience. Training with Hampton really changed how I viewed everything. Trip kind of gave me a lot of confidence in my own abilities because I realized how heavy Hampton was going, how often, and I realized maybe I was capable of pushing things.
Welcome back to the Last Set Best Set podcast. I'm Coach Brian. I'm the owner of Big Ben Strength, and I've been teaching Olympic lifting for 11 years now.
And I'm Coach Calvin. I'm current captain of Lindenwood University's Olympic weightlifting program, as well as a coach through Big Ben Strength.
And today we're going to be answering some questions that you guys submitted to us, starting with question number 1. What are our most memorable moments in weightlifting? So I'm excited about doing this episode because we haven't really done like an origin story episode a little bit. I think that's what this will be a little bit. So, we both have 2 stories that we kind of want to share as like our big memorable moments in weightlifting that really, I think, solidified kind of our maybe our place in the sport, our love of the sport, or just were very impactful. So yeah, I'm excited to share this with you guys. The first story I'm going to go ahead and share is my experience going to the Pendlay training camp in 2016 and 2017. I think that's probably one of the more pivotal moments in my life. So just to throw up some context around here, a lot of people don't necessarily know this anymore. Glenn Pendlay was at one point probably the most famous weightlifting coach in the world. You guys may know him from the Pendlay row. That's probably like the most famous thing that is attached to his name, which is kind of crazy to think about. But he also had a line of equipment. He started Cal Strength, and then he went on and started Muscle Driver USA, which were professional weightlifting teams, which is crazy to think about. Like, these were teams where they were paying athletes to be athletes. At a time when that wasn't really the case. Like, the last professional weightlifting team was like the York Barbell Club in the 50s and 60s. And I could be getting that timeline wrong a little bit, but we're talking 50, 60 years between professional weightlifting teams being a thing. And so this dude was just legit. He was a real deal coach. Like, it was just his whole life. You guys are probably familiar with the Texas method for squats: 5x5 on Monday, 5 rep max on Tuesday or on Saturday. He invented that. It sounds crazy to say that he invented 5x5. That's not the case. But the Texas method that we know of, that we learned from Starting Strength, like, he wrote that, and told the story of like how that happened. And then, unfortunately, like, through just a series of really maybe bad luck in general, I'm not sure if that's the word, he was such a good coach, but just not a good business person at all. And so got kind of taken advantage of over and over and over again, and eventually like losing the rights to his own name, to Muscle Driver, which is really terrible. Losing the rights to, the work that he put into the Starting Strength book, and never really seeing a dime from that, which is crazy to think about. So all this to say, leading up to this training camp, he had actually had a heart attack in, I think it was 2015 at the American Open Finals, I want to say. And he was in a coma for a really long time. Then he kind of moved back home to Kansas to get healthy and get in shape again. And one day the manager at my gym, he goes, "Hey, there's this, I don't know if you know this, like, Glenn Pendlay." And I was like, "Yeah, I know who Glenn Pendlay is." "Well, he's kind of back and he's doing a training camp. You should go to this." And I was like, I don't know. I'm like, I was doing CrossFit, I was doing weightlifting, I was kind of interested in strongman stuff. So it wasn't like a huge idea, but he was like, "No, you should go to this." And so he like paid for me to go to this training camp. And it was truly one of the most life-changing experiences that I've ever had.
I have a question.
Go for it.
at this training camp, I recently heard someone else on a different podcast tell about their story at a Pendlay training camp.
Yeah,
Was this one in Kansas, by the way?
it was in Kansas. Yeah.
What kind of conditions were the like place that you were staying at?
Okay,
Because
so
I heard that I heard that perhaps it wasn't a five-star hotel.
it was most certainly not a 5-star, maybe not even a 4-star hotel. So here's how the training camp kind of worked, right? We paid, I think it was $500, and we basically got our room, like room paid for. So we got our stay covered, and we got our training stuff, and then like kind of a lot of meals too, which is kind of crazy. Not everything, but for $500, this was a steal. Like this was, I don't even know how he made any money off this. I think he was just excited to be around weightlifters again, to be honest. Um, and his family had like a little block of apartments that was right next door to his house. So it was like, maybe a quarter-mile walk from those apartments to his house. And he kind of stayed in like I mean, just like not a great house, but it was doable. But then those apartments were rough. Those apartments were rough. It was I like enough to the point where I kind of don't really remember them that much, and I stayed in them for a total of 20 days, which is crazy to not remember that all that much. But they were not in great quality. But it doesn't really matter because at the end of the day, like it was really sick because we got to just go and train really hard. We trained twice a day, and then it was live a professional weightlifter lifestyle. It was like we're gonna wake up whenever we want. We're going to eat a meal, go train, come back, take a nap, eat another meal, wait a little bit, maybe take a third nap, who knows, and then go back and train and come back again. Like it was just truly like the first time I'd ever really done a professional weightlifting lifestyle and living stress free essentially. Besides the condition of the where we were staying, the hotel, the little apartment building that he had, and and the training was really crazy. So he would basically go in and we would do 2-a-days pretty much every session. I think it was every single session we did 2-a-days. Even on the days where he was like, we're going to do one, we ended up kind of going to the gym. He would just like look at us and be like, you guys want to go to the gym? And we were all like, yeah, sure. And I think that's how he would just peer pressure us into training again when we really had no business doing that. And each session was a max out session. So 10-day camp, 2-a-day workouts. Every session was a max out session. How it would work was in the morning, we would do something like we'd do snatch and clean and jerk and a squat or a pull, and we would rotate the pull or the squat and maybe a push press in there. And so we would go like morning session, we'll do like 80% snatch, max out clean and jerk, 5x5 squat, something like that, right? Evening session, we'd come back, we'd do max out snatch, 80% clean and jerk, and a max pull. Like the second time, like a clean deadlift. The second time that we went out in 2017, he was really obsessed with like West Side stuff. So everything was like all the pulls were banded, and we would like max a deadlift like multiple times that camp. Just crazy stuff. And like I'm not saying that this is something that people should go do, but I will say that you would surprise yourself with what you're capable of when you are beat down and tired and you don't think there's no shot that you're going to hit a PR. And then for some reason, you still hit PRs on like day 9 of this training method. Like it didn't make any sense. But then he would just rotate the variations every day. So it'd be like, maybe we go snatch, clean and jerk day 1. Next day, we're going to do, we'll do pause at the knee snatch. And then the day after that, we'll do power. And then the day after that, we'll do low hang, something like that, right? He would just change the variation. And so it did kind of work out in a way where there was some like waving of absolute intensity, but the relative intensity was to the maximum every single session. It was insane.
Yeah, dude, that's absolutely like, I mean, how many other people can say that they like experience that? You know what I mean?
Just
Like,
even the programming itself, like most people can't say that they experienced that, but the environment was ridiculous. Like, I mean, and we're talking full meathead weightlifter. So what a lot of people don't know actually, or you guys probably do, I don't know. was that first camp, they had 4 people come over from the UK. And one of those people was Seb Osterwitz, the creator of Weightlifting House. This was, I mean, it had to have been like the same year that he started the Weightlifting House YouTube channel. And for people who don't know, it was called Weightlifting House because it was a vlog channel, and he stayed in a house with 4 other weightlifters, or 3 other weightlifters or something like that. And so it was just like, he had 3 videos up on his channel. It was like him living the college weightlifting life. At Exeter University, he was weightlifting with a couple buddies. They all lived together, and it was a vlog channel. So he had 3 videos out or something like that. And then at this camp, we're all talking to him. This dude is a historian of weightlifting to a degree that is like kind of absurd. Like, he could just be like, who are the top 3 weightlifters at 1989 World Championships in this weight class? And he could just tell you. And it was just like, he could do that with everything. And so he just loved weightlifting so much, man. It was crazy. And at that point, he talked to Glenn and was like, hey, you want to do a podcast? Quick interruption of the video to announce our newest project, the Competition Strong Team on Train Heroic. If you're an intermediate lifter competing or planning to compete on the national circuit, this is the program for you. You'll get access to proven programming, daily video review, and coach messaging for $39 a month. Just click the link in the description below or scan the QR code on the screen for a free week trial today. All right, back to the video. And Glenn was like, yeah, sure, I don't care. That was how Weightlifting House started. Like, to think that they're streaming the world championships right now, when it was a podcast that mostly included Glenn talking about his chickens, is absolutely insane.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And I think you kind of hear Glenn described as like an eccentric kind of guy, like, or eccentric kind of guy.
Yeah.
And he, I mean, what was your experience? What was maybe some of the weirdest things that maybe Glenn would do on those camps?
Okay. So there's a few things that come to mind. One, like, he's like pretty blind. So, but I didn't know that. When the first time that I went out there, I had no idea that he was like very blind. And this was because of his heart attack and coma that he was in. Like, afterwards, he couldn't see very well. So that, showed up in a couple of different ways. But the first time that he told me this, he was driving a car, like his truck, with me in it, to the gym. And he was like, yeah, I'm like pretty blind. I can't really see like stoplights or anything. And I'm like, I'm in your car right now. What are you talking about? And then he would also like, he'd be like, yeah, I'll make food for everybody, and go and like make some eggs or something like that. And he would like crack eggs on the pan and then like pour it into the frying pan. And there would just be like so many like pieces of shell, like to the point where you're like, that's half of the eggshell is in the frying pan right now. And just like that, or, like his coffee mug, he would just like, he'd make a cup of coffee, and then, with the grounds that were there, he'd just add like another scoop on top of that, and then like brew coffee on top of that into this mug that he never washed, like a fully seasoned cast iron coffee mug here. And so he was pretty eccentric there. He was also like really obsessed with like Carhartt cargo pants. So like he didn't wear anything besides Carhartt cargo shorts. Like that was pretty much it. And he would train with us sometimes, which is kind of cool. Like he was really focused on 2 things. He was 20 rep squat and deadlift. Like that's one thing that he was really, really trying to get up. And then I think it was his 2K row. That was the other thing that he was doing. He would just do a 2K row every single day, and he would just go max effort every single day too. Like he really wanted to get under some goal. And I think Seb was talking about this on the Philosophical Weightlifting podcast. You guys should go check that out. And he would just try and get his row time down, and just never could, because he was just maxing out all the time, but refused to do any sort of like programming like he would do in weightlifting to get somebody better at it. He just didn't do that, So he was an interesting guy. He would also just do anything for you. So like he told us one time about how this weightlifter, he was like a pretty solid weightlifter. He wanted to make sure that they had a place to stay because they were homeless at the time. So he just let them live with him. And he's like, one time he got a little too rowdy, and so I told him that we had to go out back and settle it. And he like fought him, like fist fought this weightlifter. And then afterwards they were just like, all right, cool. Anyway, I'm gonna go to bed now. um, just like I don't. He was a interesting dude who really truly just gave his life to weightlifting.
Yeah, I think that's like I was Brian, you actually gave me, the Glenn Pendlay book, the book about his life and his training methods that Seb wrote.
Yeah.
And and I guess I don't did we even mention that Glenn ended up dying? What was it
No, I
in
don't think that we
2019?
did.
So yeah, Glenn ended up passing away. Do you know what year that was?
I think it was 2021. I could be wrong about that. It might have been 2020. It kind of blurs together because that was during COVID. I think it was 2020 actually.
Yeah, but reading his book and just how people talk about him, or I've heard people talk about him, like this is a guy who had no plan B. There was no like idea that he would ever be doing something other than weightlifting. That's kind
Yeah.
of the sound of it.
I mean,
Um,
yeah, 100%. A lot of people don't know this. He had a master's in I think it was kinesiology. Like this dude was sharp. He was really smart. Um, and yeah, I mean that's just another example of like you would never have expected, but he's like a full academic.
Yeah, he kind of from what I've heard too is like he would like to try a lot of new things too. Like you kind of mentioned that he was like getting into West Side stuff on the second camp when you went there,
Hmm.
and so things were being done kind of a lot differently. Do you think from those two camp experiences, like what were some of the things that maybe he tried that nobody else, maybe people listening haven't done before, or just like weird kind of approaches to weightlifting? Does anything come to mind?
All right, so I got two for you. The first camp was honestly, I think it was more of like a little bit of his re-entry kind of back into weightlifting too. So it was much more traditional, right? From what I understand, he essentially was having us do what he did at Muscle Driver, which was like we're gonna see how many workouts you can do where you go up to or very near maximum, and we're gonna try and push the limits every single session. Um, and it would come down to even things like accessories. It would be, we're going to do 3 sets of GHD hip extensions, right? But we're going to find a 10 rep max. And when I say like find a 10 rep max, people are like, what do you mean like a 10 rep max hip extension? We would have two people on either end of a barbell help you get a barbell up onto your back, like behind your neck, and do back extensions on a GHD. This barbell is like straight up just pressing on your neck. Like it is one, there's no way this is safe, but I will say, like, my back got super strong. I stuck with doing that afterwards for a long time. I preferred to hold the barbell in different ways or hold plates or things like that. He was really obsessed with like the hip extension, getting your back super strong, and I still live by that. I think it's very important. Um, and at one point, I remember seeing this dude Brandon Deans do a 500-pound set of 5 on the back squat at like 85 kilos, something like that. But I remember seeing him do like a 70-kilo GHD hip extension for a set of 10 with a barbell on your back. A lot of people don't know that if you try that out, you're not getting anywhere close to that. No shot. That was really neat. The second camp is where he really let loose though. Because he was really getting into West Side stuff. He was talking with Louis Simmons like pretty regularly at that point. Like he was just like, yeah, I don't know, I'll just call the gym and Louis will pick up. And I was like, what? How is it that that's how that works? And ask him questions, and so they, I guess, became like pretty good friends or something like that. And he brought out the bands. That was the big thing that he implemented on that second camp. And so we did. Go ahead.
I have seen, I believe, a video of Louis doing cleans with bands.
Yeah. So we
Did
did.
Glenn have
We
you do
did.
that?
Yep. Pendlay had us do banded power cleans. Um,
Yeah.
so band resisted power cleans, right? His theory on this was that if we can get you to create a lot of power with the bands, when we take them off, you'll be even more powerful without, right? Interesting approach, right? And so here's an example of a workout that he had us do. He would have us build up to a max banded power clean and then pull the bands off and continue to build up in weight after that. So it's essentially just like a post-activation potentiation. You're pulling way harder because those bands are constantly trying to bring that bar back down, but you're also getting under the bar really fast because you have to. Because where a normal barbell, you'll launch it and it's got a couple of seconds before it starts moving back down. On a banded barbell, you launch it, the bar's moving back down immediately because the bands are pulling it back down. So you had to learn how to get under that bar really fast. And I'll say, like, I PR'd my power clean after that. I did banded power clean max, pulled bands off, PR power clean again after that. That was pretty crazy. He had us do like banded snatch grip and clean grip deadlifts to a maximum with like varying degrees of band tension at different times. That stuff, I don't know if I found that all that helpful, but it's also kind of hard to see the correlation of it to your lifts. I'll say, like, generally you just figure out that you have to pull way harder than you thought. So I think that was a useful takeaway for me.
Yeah, interesting stuff. I mean, what do you think, like, you took from those Pendlay camps into things you do now? Like, what's
Yeah. Okay, so there's a few takeaways here. I mean, one takeaway that I still think about to this day is that you can train so much harder than you think you can. It doesn't mean that you have to train like we trained at these camps, but you just know that you would be surprised what you're capable of when you think that you are beat into the ground. So that's one. There's a confidence that kind of comes with that later on, like after the fact, where for years I would just be like way more confident about whatever I could do in training because I was like, I survived that camp. I can do this pretty easy workout. That's one big takeaway. The other big takeaway is you need to go train with people who are better than you. I was easily the worst weightlifter there. Like I mean, we're talking like I showed up and everybody there was snatching my clean and jerk. There's something that happens when you see somebody snatch your clean and jerk that makes you go, I cannot let this happen again. That really motivates you to get very good at the sport. But the other thing that kind of comes with that is like there are so many elements to the lifts that you don't really understand until you watch in person. So if you're training alone all the time, and that was kind of what I was doing, go train with other weightlifters, see what real speed means. You don't understand how to be fast under the bar in a snatch until you see somebody have to do that because they're snatching, 140. If you're not seeing people snatch that on a regular basis, your brain just doesn't really know what that means. So I think those were probably my two biggest takeaways. I'm going to drop a third in there, and that is reach out to coaches and reach out to athletes and just be be a part of the community as a whole. And it might lead to something crazy. Seb did that. He said, "Hey, do you want to do a podcast with me?" And it was a humble podcast at first. And now he's streaming the world he owns the rights to the world championships in weightlifting. That wouldn't have happened if he hadn't said, "Hey, Glenn, do you want to do a podcast with me?" So I think that's a big takeaway for me.
Yeah, take that trip. Go
Yeah.
go train with those people in some other
Figure out a
state.
way. I mean, I like the second time, I know that the gym owner paid for it the first time. The second time it was all me. I still couldn't afford it, but you just figure out a way, If you can figure out a way, whatever it is, figure it out. It will be worth it.
Yeah, I think that's probably maybe a good segue to go into my first story.
Yeah, let's hear
Uh,
it.
I'm going to talk about probably, I mean, it's the only moment that comes to mind when I'm like, what really defined my weightlifting career. There's a second one later on, but this is the first one for me that like, I mean, it's the only reason I'm here. It's the only reason I do weightlifting. It's how I got into weightlifting. And like I know Brian, you kind of did some CrossFit stuff. You were around some people maybe that did weightlifting, but I had never really been introduced to the movements that much. I'd never seen anybody do a snatch. I'd never seen anybody do a split jerk. Everybody kind of does some cleans in some high school sports. Most people understand the value in those. And I was doing track and field and cross country in high school. I didn't even do sports in middle school. So that's kind of how I got into cross country. Is they told me like, yeah, you don't need any experience, so you can. I wasn't going to try out for the basketball team, having never touched a basketball. And yeah, so I got started with cross country in track and field. That's when we started doing some cleans. I'm not noticeably good at them or anything before training them very much, and just kind of took a good interest in training. So I remember after my freshman year of track, I really took interest in training. I was going to the YMCA 5 days a week, having my mom drive me there, or I would walk well over a mile to the YMCA.
Dude, I did
Um,
the exact same thing actually.
yeah,
At like 12, I was like going to the YMCA every single day, and I would walk or bike like 3 miles to get there. Um, and I just did bench press. I didn't know what I was doing, but that was it.
yeah. I remember I took my track program that they had us do. They printed out programs for us to do after our track and field workouts, and I just took that program and did it all summer. Which I'm not exactly sure how I organized that, because I guess we trained every day in track, but I remember it being like 3x10 hang cleans, or like 3x 15 box jump. Like it was not,
Yeah.
it was nothing too special. And but I got after it, lifting on my own with my buddy there. And after a while, I really wanted to be good at track. Cross country, I didn't care about as much. I sort of knew that I worked really hard in cross country, but I didn't love the sport that much, and then two, I just wasn't very good at it. For the amount of effort I was putting in, like running all summer, keeping track of my mileage closely, progressing it. There'd be kids on my team that did not train the entire summer, that were, being wild all summer, that would just crush me by like 2 minutes in the 5K. So I'm like, this isn't really my thing. Like I'm liking it. Like I'm getting a lot out of being a leader on the team, maybe. But as an athlete, this isn't really my calling. I'm like, I think track, like I could be really good at track. And I really tried to go after it, but sophomore year, the school year got cut short. That was coronavirus. That was 2020. So we did not have a season. Then junior year, going into junior year, I got injured in the winter. I was dealing with this really bad pain kind of in my glute and sciatica kind of thing. Rough start to the season, and then basically 2 weeks in, I strained my hamstring. I'd never done that before, had no experience with it. I tried to rehab it, myself, and going through that, and I strained it again. I come back 2 weeks later, strain it again. And then I'm kind of good for like another month, but it's like the week before the postseason starts, and I strain it again a third time in that entire season. And I remember going to the locker room. I like threw my bag into the locker, like I was so mad. And I'm not a very emotional person. Not like I'm not super high highs or super low lows. So I don't know. I was really frustrated. And I remember just being like embarrassed. Like I'm like, why did I just do that? But I was really mad because what am I gonna get, like maybe a college offer senior year of track, like maybe, but that's like the end of the school year, and I don't, I really wanted to have like a future there, but I was just frustrated because I wasn't having the results I wanted. And I had weight training class at the time. So we were training some cleans. I think I could do 215-pound clean. And one day, every day when you walk in and out of the weight room, there's our record board in high school. And on there was clean and jerk. I don't know why. Nobody ever did the clean and jerk together. Nobody ever did jerks even. But it said that for my weight, the school record was 245 pounds. I weighed about 160 at the time. And I'm looking at that, I'm like, well, I just did 215, a couple weeks ago. Maybe if I train really hard over the summer, I can come in and I can break that record, and I'll kind of feel like I was athletically a little more validated than what I was getting from track, where I was just getting injured and not doing well. And so I trained really hard over the summer. I post some weightlifting videos. Funny enough, I actually tagged Big Ben Strength in one of my first ever TikTok that I posted about weightlifting. I tagged some other coaches, watching videos online to try and get better. And I did get a lot better. Like I was making progress quite quickly, quite quickly. And that summer I hit 225 pretty quickly, 245. School year starts, I hit 255 on the clean, and cross country season ends, senior year. I'm like, I'm ready. I'm gonna go for the record. So I loaded up 260, or I did 255 first to beat the record. I even did 265 after that. So clean and jerk, I was like, all right, we did it. And I think the next day in class, I went to break the clean record, which was 275. I did 280. I even had a really close miss at 295, and I was like, wow, like I'm pretty good at this. Like I'm the best in our class. Like I set the school record and stuff too. Like, oh, that record was from 1996, the clean record. Like, let's go. Like I felt like I did it. And so what did I do is I posted it on my lifting Instagram, which had 10 followers, and I was like, okay, maybe I'm done. Like I don't know. Why would I keep pushing weightlifting? Like, time to get ready to go to a state school and be in a frat or something. And that was it for a little bit, until one of my friends at the time, who I didn't even know him that well, but his name's Jack. He happened to be one of the people who followed that very tiny Instagram account, and showed that video to a CrossFit coach at his gym that also was a weightlifting coach at Lindenwood University. And he said, hey, is this good? This guy goes to my school. And Devin, who was coaching at the CrossFit gym, used to be our assistant coach, showed that to the head coach. Somehow they got my email and emailed me. I decided to start try and snatch. They emailed me, reached out. I'm like, shoot, man, maybe this is an opportunity I've been looking for. I thought, was gone. I maybe thought like I couldn't achieve that, or I wasn't capable of getting, maybe some sort of college scholarship, or even going to pursue like some sort of higher athletic potential that maybe I thought I had deep down. And so immediately I sent like a super professional email back with like my resume and my GPA and my ACT score, and a really, encapsulated an email that encapsulated everything about who I was and how I was like super serious about this, and got to come on a visit, and got offered scholarship to come weightlift. It happened to be just 30 minutes away from where I grew up, so that was really really beneficial to stay close to home. And yeah, essentially like just posting that one video on social media ended up snowballing into what you might look back and like attribute as luck, right? Like that's kind of what happens is I look back and I'm like, yeah, like I got really lucky that someone happened to show my video to the right person. But in all honesty, how many people make a lifting Instagram and post their lifts on there? Like that's already such a small percentage of people who lift, or who, especially, younger kids or something, like I was in high school. And so even if it was a private account with only 10 followers, like that's 10 people who know 10 other people who know 10 other people who, might know the right person to put you in the right spot. And not many people do weightlifting. So there's probably like 8 weightlifting coaches in all of St. Louis. And, somebody that followed that account happened to know somebody else that was a weightlifting coach. And I was kind of in the right time at the right place. And yeah, social media then has changed my life in a lot of other ways too. And weightlifting on social media, I'll kind of get into that on my second story I have to tell. But yeah, I don't know, Brian, do you have any questions, or what do you think else I should cover maybe?
I think that's pretty straightforward. I like what you said about the luck part of that. Luck is an element, but there's a lot of things that go into luck, and you can really increase your surface area for luck by being really intentional with things that you do. So sure, you also posted the video, but there was a lot of other decisions that went along before that video got posted. There was you deciding to break the record. There was you sticking with the training to do it. There was you pushing past beyond just breaking the record. There was a lot of things that went in that weren't luck. They were work, and it led to luck. I think luck is just the culmination of work a lot of the time. I definitely think that there is luck is a real thing. I do think that it's not just work, but you could definitely increase your odds for sure.
Yeah, like setting an intentional goal and figuring out how to get there.
Yeah.
Like looking back, I feel like that's like a good skill I had. Like whether it was trying to get better at cross country, like, buying books about cross country training, figuring out how to do summer training for myself to get myself better, or applying that exact like knowledge to weightlifting, where I was going to find every corner of the internet that had weightlifting advice. Reaching out to you, Brian, reaching out to other coaches, and just tagging them in my videos or DMing them, just DMing them, hey, can you help me with this?
Hmm.
And yeah, I mean, it even comes down to like me just in passing mentioning to you, Brian, that like, oh yeah, like I'd love to start coaching someday. And you were like, actually, I have been looking to hire a coach. Like, do you want to work for me? Like, the amount of like decisions that you make that can open up opportunities, or just talking to people, engaging in the community in which you're, passionate about, and which, like, if it's the sport of weightlifting, engaging with people in the community, can open up so many opportunities. Like, in
I also don't
Lindenwood,
think I've ever told you this, but I was so nervous to ask if you wanted to coach.
why?
I don't know. I was just like, I don't know. This guy's got so many followers. Like, why would he want to do that? I don't know. Just like, I was just nervous about it. It's kind of funny. I don't think I've ever told you that.
No, I don't even know if we've ever discussed that since that happened. If we've talked about how, because I just remember like maybe mentioning to you once, like, yeah, like I'd love to like get into coaching sometime, and you were just like, hey, I'm actually looking to hire one.
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, here's what happened. I put out the free beginner program, and then I was like, oh my god, I got to figure out how to get this in front of more people. And I had like a decent following on TikTok, but I was just like, I reached out to you, and this was our almost our first real interaction. Besides, like, I don't know if you remember this, talking about the Ollie building program. Um, and Do you remember this? Somebody asked, like, what are your thoughts on like um something along the lines of Ollie building. Like, it got brought up. And then
Yeah.
you were like, I don't know, it seems kind of like a gimmicky, like, marketing kind of thing. And then I saw the video and I responded. I was like, well, I don't really think it's a gimmicky thing. I think it's more just like a program that works for people who are either hobby lifters, like they just kind of want to do weightlifting and bodybuilding, or like maybe a good
Yeah.
off season kind of thing. And you're like, oh, that's kind of neat. And then we didn't really talk for a little while afterwards. And then I put out that free beginner program, and I asked you if you would be able to, like, you'd be down to like make a video to help me promote it. And I think I paid you like $100 to do that. Um,
I remember
and
thinking like, dang, $100 for one
yeah,
video? Like,
yeah. And
oh
then
my.
that video led to, I think, in one day, like 80 people downloading that free beginner program. And I was like, what the heck? That's crazy. And then I just remember, like, maybe there's something here, and I just was like, hey, are you ever interested in coaching? And you were like, oh, I don't know. I hadn't really thought about it, but yeah, I guess I would be. And I was like, let's talk about it. And so that's how it went. It was kind of interesting.
Yeah, and we like speed run, like I like drove like to the nearest L1 seminar, like that was like 4 hours away from me, and um, we just got going from there. That's sort of a bonus story for the people listening. We hadn't planned on talking about that one, but that's
Bonus
kind of cool.
story. There we go.
Yeah.
Um, I think social media is a good segue into my next story here. So my next story is kind of really just the year of 2021, which was just a really great and really terrible year, in a lot of different ways. But in 2020, I like started posting on TikTok, which was during the pandemic, decided to go ahead and start doing it, and it built up a pretty big following. That was really neat. That was really cool. But it also led to, like, I had some athletes kind of reach out to me who were near me and wanted to come and like just do a competition that I was hosting. And so they did that. I talked to them. He didn't have a coach. I was like, hey, do you want to do this? Do this weightlifting thing? And then he was like, yeah, but also I've got this friend who's still in high school who is really strong. You should like talk to him. And so that guy's name was TJ Thomas Hart. And he was a senior in high school, and he clean and jerked about 300 pounds, which was pretty crazy. And he was doing high school weightlifting here in Florida. And they didn't do the snatch at this point, so it was just bench press and clean and jerk. He clean and jerked 300. I was like, dang, that's pretty crazy. He was an 81 kilo lifter. And so we kind of got to talking. He was like, yeah, I'll try snatching this week and just let you know how it goes. And I was like, well, I mean, all right, well, we could figure something. We don't have to do it like just like that. But he was a weird communicator. And so he texted me later on that day, and it was just a video of him snatching 200 pounds. And I have to preface this by saying he did not warm up to 200 pounds. Somebody near him had 200 pounds in the bar, and he just tried to snatch it and did it. Which is one of the most maddening things I think I've ever like really experienced as a coach. Is like that was really when I just went, some people just had better parents. Like that was when I was like, oh, genetics is real. That's crazy.
At that moment, what do you think you were snatching in that moment, like in your
200
training?
pounds. Yeah, like at that moment, I was probably snatching 200 pounds. I'd snatched 100 kilos at that point, but I was like, that's pretty crazy. And so I reached out. I was like, let's do this. And he was like, nah, I don't know. I'm good. And then he ended up actually like coming back later because their season got cut short in that 2020. So it was like, I want to like do the USA weightlifting state championships instead. Like I'll do that. And so he came to me, and we started training together. And he, to preface that, he came in with 2 slap tears, a slap tear in both shoulders from wrestling. So he couldn't turn over a clean or a snatch at all. So he was like, I want to get good at weightlifting, but I also can't clean or snatch or jerk. I was like, all right, let's figure this out. And we did figure it out. And so, we just kept at it, kept doing what we could. And the 2 things that he could do with that were bottom up overhead squats and jerk recoveries. And so we just hammered that, and then he could push the clean a little bit. Quick interruption of the video to tell you about the OlyStrong team. The OlyStrong team is my group coaching program designed to be affordable and effective. You'll get access to your choice of 3 or 5 days a week of proven programming, daily video feedback to improve your technique, and unlimited coach messaging to ask as many questions as you'd like, including the dumb ones. Most coaches charge hundreds per month in coaching fees, but I'm giving it to you guys for less than $30 a month. And you can try it for free for 7 days by scanning the QR code on the screen or clicking the link in the description below. All right, back to the video. And we just hammered that, and then went and competed at the state championships, and didn't really know where he was going to be at, but he put up 160 kilos on the clean and jerk. So he went from 300. I remember he went from 300 to 315 pretty quickly. And all I did was really like just change his elbow position a little bit, and he fought me on that so hard. He really didn't want to do it. And then he got 315. He was like, all right, fine, I'll listen. And then we went from 315 to, which is a 143 to 160, 352, right? Without doing any clean and jerks, just cleans and jerk recoveries. It was truly a lift that he got away with. Like how that happened, I don't really know. That competition was just a fever dream. I don't really understand how it happened. And I don't remember exactly what he snatched, but it was between 110 and 120. So 242 and 265. And I truly just don't know how it happened. That was a mystery. But that meet, afterwards, I was looking at the rankings, and I was like, oh, cool. He's like 6th in the country right now. That's pretty nuts as a junior. I wonder if he could make like a Pan Am team or something. So I'm looking at the rankings, and I'm like, oh, he's 6. It's not going to work. And then I realized that the 5 people ahead of him were all aging out of juniors, so they weren't eligible for the next World Championships. And suddenly he's the number 1 ranked junior in the country. And I was like, oh, what do I do? Like, what's the next step? And so I hit up Daniel Camargo, who is the Florida weightlifting president, and he led my level 1, level 2, big coaching mentor for me. And I asked him, like, what do I need to do to get him on a team? And that took multiple hour-long conversations of trying to figure out what the next steps were to get him on this team. And it was a nightmare. So first of all, like, he was not eligible to compete because he hadn't been in the registered testing pool, because we didn't know that he was a good weightlifter at all. So you have to be in that testing pool for 6 months before you can compete internationally. We found that out. So we get him in the testing pool, and Worlds is happening, right? We find out that he is ineligible to compete at Worlds because he will have been in the testing pool for exactly 5 months and 29 days at the start of the competition, instead of 6 months. Like, he was off by a day. And then, because of the pandemic, the World Championships gets bumped back, and he's now eligible to compete. But then the selection procedures are supposed to be reset if there's going to be more than 6 months. At that time, the selection procedures had to be reset, and they had to reselect the team. And so I'm like, perfect, awesome, let's go. And I reach out to the then CEO of USA Weightlifting to, just confirm that this is going to happen. And he tells me, we've actually decided we're not going to reselect the teams. And I was like, what? Like, your guys' rules say that you have to. And he's like, well, it just wouldn't be fair to the people who already made the team. And I was like, well, it's not fair to the people who are better than the people on the team. And so, that was a whole big thing. I'll go into it because this is a crazy story. So he hits that state championships. We realize we got to do AO finals, the online version of AO finals. And has to do it at this meet because you can only qualify for a world team at a national level meet. So this is the last meet of the year. It's the last qualifying meet of the year. We get on with this, and there's TJ's competing against other athletes who I've followed on Instagram for years. They're, competing against like Travis Mash's athlete. I'm like, oh my God, I'm competing against Travis Mash. That's crazy. And he goes, and his competition is at 11 p.m. because they're doing an online meet and they're basing it off Colorado time instead of Eastern time. So he weighs in at 9 and starts competing at 11, and he's a lifter who has to cut weight for this. It's ridiculous. And before the meet happens, I'm like Instagram DMing the CEO and arguing about like whether or not, even if we put up the total that he has to hit, will he be reselected for the team? And at that point, like, the CEO of weightlifting tells me, we're done with this conversation. He will never make a team. And then I'm like in the bathroom, like trying to figure this out. And I got to go back like out of the bathroom and be like, all right, TJ, let's crush this competition. And dude, I mean, it was the most clutch meet I've ever seen from somebody. The worst possible circumstances. He has to make it. He's competing against people who are like some of the best lifters in the country to do this, and he managed to pull it off. And then we have to essentially go through like USA Weightlifting appeals process, and we had to like argue our case for why they had to reselect the team. So I think somebody got bumped off the team. I'm sorry, I don't know who that was, but I apologize to whoever that was. But it was kind of because of us. We like brought the problem up. It was like, you guys are supposed to reselect the team. And that's how we made the 2021 Junior World Championships. And we're training for it. And during this whole process, I'm like in the process of closing my gym down to focus on online coaching because TikTok is like doing so well. So it's just a whirlwind of a year. In that year, in 2021, he qualified for Junior Worlds, Junior Pan Ams, and another Junior Pan Ams, the rescheduled one. So they had all three of those in a year. And he qualifies for all three of those. Junior Worlds comes around, and we're all set. We like finally make it onto the team. And the day before we go, he tests positive for COVID and is not allowed to go. And so he actually never got to go and compete at the Junior World Championships that year because of COVID, despite how hard we fought to get him on that team. It was honestly that when he told me that he tested positive for COVID, I was like, that was probably the worst I've ever felt up to that point. But came back and I think 6 weeks later had Junior Pan Ams and absolutely smashed it. I think he got 4th or 5th at Junior Pan Ams that year. And it's crazy. Like, we go to Colombia, we're doing all kinds of different, all kinds of different stuff, and going to Colombia and doing that team USA experience was really life changing. Like, just being around other coaches, being around other high level athletes. I'm rooming like with a coach that I've looked up to who was coaching an Olympian at that point. I'm like, what the hell? This is crazy talk. This is crazy to think about. And it was a whirlwind of an experience there, but a great experience nonetheless. And I think maybe my big takeaway for that is like, do whatever you like. If you're within scratching distance of making a team, do whatever you have to make it, because it is an absolutely game changing experience. It will at the very worst be a really cool experience that you pay a lot of money for, and at the very best could change your entire life. So I think like if you're there, go for it.
Absolutely, dude. Like that's so cool, and it almost got ruined by him like not competing at the Worlds, like with COVID and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I'm glad that it still had like a really good ending. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that.
And I also found out like after the fact, talking to some of the people who went to that Junior Worlds, they were like, that was they all said it was like genuinely one of the worst experiences that they've ever had competing. It was like a 16-hour flight or something like that, and horrible. And they all like had a really rough time going through customs in Turkey. Like it was apparently just, they were like, honestly, be glad you did not go. It's hard to say that on the other end of not being able to go, but it was neat, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I think like so many people really idolize that Team USA journey as well too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as it's almost like if you're not Team USA, like you weren't ever a good athlete. Like if you never made a team, like do you really were you really a good athlete? And so it's funny to see like what a lot of people end up doing like after. I don't know if I've actually asked you this, but what is TJ up to? I actually have no clue.
So TJ, he did his three international competitions, and then he moved to West Palm Beach for school, and got set up with Freedom Weightlifting down there. The homies they're awesome. Like they live and die by the Pendlay method. Like it was really cool. I actually didn't talk about this whole time, but like I was training him and kind of like a little unsure about the programming that I'm doing. Like this is the first real high level athlete I've ever had. And Seb put out the Pendlay Method book, and I read that book, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna stick with what I learned from Pendlay, and really try it. And that was I mean, that's what put 25 kilos on his clean and jerk. And I mean, he went from snatching 200 pounds to to snatching 286. Like he snatched 130. And I was just like, I'm just going to trust the methods and do what I think is going to be the best possible program for him. And so I think that experience also led to me like really trusting my approach and my programming at that time, even though it's so much different than what I do now. It was very confidence building in a way too, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. That's pretty cool. I mean,
Oh, I didn't
like you,
answer the question. Yeah, so he got set up with Freedom. He continued weightlifting a little bit. I think he did one or two more nationals after that, senior nationals at that point. Once you make
yeah.
that jump from junior to senior, it's really rough. But he medaled at senior nationals one time, um, and he was in med school this whole time. So he's like, I'm fairly certain that he's like a full doctor now.
Wow, that's cool. Yeah, you
Yeah,
should maybe reach out to him. Let him know that his story was covered on the podcast a little bit.
yeah.
That'd be
I'll
cool.
check in with him and see how he's doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what would you say? I mean, you kind of said like your takeaways, but that experience, that Team USA experience, like what does it bring to your life and your coaching now? Like as far as how you approach training people.
Man, okay, so I would say the big one is like focus on the basics, like do the basics really well and just get strong as hell. Like I think that was the big thing. Like he was like a 440 front squatter, but we just pushed strength. We just kept going on strength. And really pushed that, and it helped a lot. So I would say like strength is never a weakness. That was a big thing for us when it comes to the programming stuff. Um, I think another big takeaway was there is you can only train so hard, but if you want to make a team, you're going to have to do other things to fight to get on that team. Like training hard is a big part of it, but you have to do whatever it takes to get on that team. And I'm talking like you guys heard, I was in like a full argument with the CEO of weightlifting where like he should just shut me down. That like isn't that's one of those things where like as a coach you're like, is this going to impact my business in some way? Like is this going to hurt my club? Like I don't know. Um and so that was, that was like that was another big takeaway. It's just like do whatever it takes to make it happen. And then third is like talk to other coaches, because that whole experience I start, talking with Camargo, who's really helpful in the process. But then I also met Kara Head Slaughter on that camp and on that journey, and learned a lot about like programming and coaching. And I ended up like editing videos for her and like starting her TikTok with her and like doing a lot, and learned a lot from that and helped her kind of set up her Train Heroic stuff. And then in the process, like I don't know, I was just watching how one of Dane Miller's athletes like conducts themselves, and I sent him a message on our like WhatsApp group. I was just like, hey, I just want to say like your athlete like conducts themselves in just a really great way. They represent you in such a great way. You should definitely be proud of them. And because of that, like I built a little bit of a relationship with him through that, and then met Travis Mash at that. And like when I was getting into weightlifting, Travis Mash was the guy. And so that was kind of like really cool to meet him and talk to him. And we had some good conversations there. And then just learned, just learning a lot. Learned a lot about how that other coach that I roomed with, like, operated their business and everything. It was really, really insightful. So I think the big takeaway there for any coaches listening is like talk to other coaches, learn from each other, because we all feel like we're kind of alone in this, and we don't need to be. Like it doesn't have to be that way.
Absolutely. Good stuff.
Yeah.
I
What about you?
As far as what? As far as my
Uh,
next story, or
yeah. What's your next story?
all right, let's get into it. This is our last story, and this is going to be how I got to live and train with Hampton Morris for about a month, and then watch him compete and win in Paris, and even got to hold the medal afterwards, which is pretty sick. A quick interruption to the video to tell you about something we've been working on for a long time: the 10-week squat program. One of the reasons I've been able to make progress in my Olympic lifts so quickly is through my strength reserve. As an 88 kilo lifter, I've back squatted 230 kilos or over 500 pounds. While we don't compete in the squat, having an excess of squat strength allows me to get in more training in the Olympic lifts, as they don't fatigue me as much. And of course, if you can't squat a weight, you're never gonna be able to clean it. So if you feel like the squat is what's holding you back, be sure to use code LASTSETPOD, all uppercase, at checkout to get a 20% discount on your program today. So I had been weightlifting at Lindenwood all freshman year. I was doing, my numbers weren't anything crazy. I think at the end of freshman year, I had done 110 and 135 for snatch and clean and jerk. At summer nationals, I did like 113 and 140 as an 81. So some nice quick progress in about a year's time. But I think that was sixth at the national championships. I wasn't any crazy high level weightlifter or anything. But at some point that fall, it must have been even October or November, Hampton, who I've talked to like a handful of times, I had never met him. I'd never even met him at a meet or anything. I'd only been to like 2 meets in weightlifting. I would always reach out to him. He's going to Pan Am, so he set a new American junior record at Pan Am's, or one junior Pan Am's. Like, hey, good job, man. Like, I have a question about like how you do this or whatever. I'd probably done that at least like a handful of times. He followed me back, which I thought was really cool at the time. I didn't have followers at the time either, and he I think he made a point to do that to like basically anybody who was a weightlifter at the time. Like I think his like following count was like many thousands. Like he probably like followed like 6,000 people or something. But I still felt special, and I thought it was pretty cool just because he's like the best weightlifter that followed me. And but yeah, I just reach out to him just because we were mutuals and just be like, hey, dude, like good job, like keep it up. So then he reaches out to me, and like that sophomore year time of me, and I'm a senior now, so it's a couple years back, and he's like, hey man, like would you want to come train sometime? Like would you want to come to Atlanta and train with me? and it was pretty open ended. Like that was like it, and I was just like, yeah, of course. Like when are you thinking? Like, and he's like, well, I mean, honestly, anytime. Like, I mean, when are you free? Like, do you have the school year? And I'm like, yeah, like probably after the school year ends, like in the summertime. Like how long would you think? And like he's just very much like, yeah, like I mean, however long you would want to stay. And I'm like, what does that mean? Um, like a week? Like, I mean, a week sounds good. And he's like, yeah, you could stay for a week or even a month. And I'm like, again, like I've never met him, and I'm just like, huh. And this is like before Olympic qualification was really going. He wasn't even. I don't think he was near the top 10 yet on the qualification rankings, and um, we had kind of roughly made this plan for the summer, and come around springtime. I'm trying to qualify for Junior Pan Ams, and he's given me some good advice. I'm trying to qualify for Junior Pan Ams at the Arnold. I end up hitting the minimum, but not going on that trip. He was pretty nice to me about it. He gave me some good advice as far as like making teams and things, and so we chatted a little bit, and we still had this plan. And eventually, sometime in that, like early half of the year, he ended up securing his Olympic qualification, and I I was like, hey, dude, like, are we still on to train this summer? Like, you're going to the Olympics. Like, I don't really want to, like, mess up any of that. And he's like, yeah, like, absolutely. Like, is a month still good or whatever? And I'm like, I remember, like, thinking about it, and I'm like, I have to do this. Like, I
I
do not,
remember this whole process
yeah.
very clearly. Yeah.
How do you remember it?
Um, okay, so I remember you being a little unsure about it, like how it was all going to work out, especially with being able to go to watch him at the Olympics. Um, and I remember just being like, you have to do this. Like you're going to go train with Hampton like the month before the Olympics. You have to figure out a way, right? And so what ended up happening was you flew down to Tallahassee, and we did a seminar together. And then after the seminar the next day, we drove up to Atlanta, and I dropped you off to train with him, and I stayed for a little while to watch Hampton train for a session, just talk to his dad and like get to know him a little bit. It was really neat. That was a cool experience for me as well. How often do you get to watch a future Olympian train? Very, very rarely. I mean, I remember watching him do like a 140 power clean plus two jerk or something like that, and he like does that and then just slams his barbell down back onto his collar, and it like jarred me, and he just was fully unfazed by it, and I was like, oh, this is a different level. This is kind of crazy.
Yeah,
um
that dude has the strongest core in the world.
it's insane, yeah. And but at that time it was really like I was really pushing you to figure out a way to go and watch him at the Olympics, because you had a study abroad and it was going to end like 2 weeks before the Olympics, and you're like, I don't know if I can like do this. And I was like, it's 2 weeks, you've got to figure out a way to stay for the Olympics. Like anything that you can possibly do it. And you followed through. I don't know what you ended up doing, but you stayed and you were able to like go and watch Hampton like compete at the Olympics. um and that, I mean, that was really neat.
Yeah, so what ended up happening was my mom, who also studied abroad in Spain, actually at the same university where I ended up studying abroad in Spain for that month. It was just a month-long study abroad program, but I still got six college credits out of it because it was basically full-time school. It was like 6 hours a day of school in Spanish. But that program finished. My mom came to Spain to travel around with me, and we, visited her favorite spots in that city, Granada, where I was studying, and then went around some other parts of the country in Spain. And we actually went up north to what's like called like the food capital of the world in the Basque Country, Spain, and finished off in Barcelona, where I took the train from Barcelona to Paris. And Hampton was competing in just a few days. I got the world's tiniest Airbnb in Paris. I actually could not stand up in their shower. Like I couldn't stand straight, and I am 5'9". Like I could not stand straight in the shower. I had to like hunch over and hold the shower head and like wash my. It was like this was a one-room lofted apartment in Paris, and it's still like $150 a night or something crazy like that. And I'm staying there. I'm alone. I'm taking the metro everywhere. I'm taking bikes, the rent-a-bikes everywhere, just riding along I think it's called the Seine River. Is that what it is?
I think so.
The river that the Eiffel Tower is kind of along, and I was just living the life, man, and get to watch Hampton compete. I, lost my mind. He won a medal. He won a bronze medal. He even took a lift to win a silver, and he didn't get it, but he was really close. And it was like a really surreal experience. Weird. I don't know if you knew this, Brian, but I actually was sitting like 4 seats down from Kakiashvili. Do you know who that is?
Yeah.
like Kaki Kakishvili did like 190, 235 as like a 90 kilo lifter. Like it's like an absolutely insane total, and he's a 3-time Olympic champion, and he signed my T-shirt. So
That's
I've
crazy.
um and he also, by the way, during the Olympic session was very obnoxiously having the scoreboard with volume on the entire time, even when like, the entire arena's quiet, somebody's about to take their lift, and you just hear like this like noisy, like random like white noise coming from some guy's phone at full volume, and everybody's like looking at him like, what is this? And like, I mean, I don't think anybody knows who he is really. And a lot of the Olympics viewers aren't like weightlifting faithfuls. They're just like people there.
Right.
Um, so like, who's this asshole on his phone? Like, he's just a 3-time Olympic champion, like just chilling over there. Um, but I got a Paris Olympic shirt signed by him, and I remember like I got it signed by him. I was like so excited, and I'm like, wait, what do I do with this shirt? Like, like,
Yeah.
I can't wear it or it'll wear off, and then like what do I frame it? Like, I don't know if I want to go through all that. I don't know. That shirt's at home somewhere, but um, anyways. Yeah, like I'll talk a little more about what actually it was like living with Hampton, because that's like a lot of the cooler part of the story. I mean, a lot of people get to experience the experience of watching the Olympics. I mean, you can watch it on TV, of course, but living with someone just months, like less than a couple months before they compete, excuse me, is pretty crazy, especially when that person is Hampton. So, training at home, his dad's his coach. Uh, he's optimized, essentially like all areas of his life for weightlifting performance. As an athlete myself, I was competing at the national championships at the end of that stay, which, funny enough, I did not have a good meet. But regardless, I had really good training and like a ton of learning there. And you kind of think you're going to go into that experience and you're going to get like the secret potion to weightlifting where you're going to figure it all out and everything's going to make sense. And I mean, there definitely was some pretty big takeaways from that trip as far as like how I approached weightlifting. And it's like a very much pivotal point in my weightlifting career. But, not anything crazy, right? You know, Hampton's dad really emphasized that we're all standing on the shoulders of giants, and he didn't invent anything. And as a coach for Hampton, Hampton's not doing anything that nobody else has ever thought of before. They're just sourcing information from other places, reading books, being really well read on what is out there, experimenting and tracking data to know when they change something if it changes another thing. So they track a ton of data, sometimes data points that I have no clue how they were even using them or if they were using them. But like whether it's Hampton's hydration streak of his water bottle tracks how much he drinks, and he's had a 600-day hydration streak that he hit his goal. Like, what? That's crazy. There's so many like random little factoids about that trip where it's like what? Like I didn't even think anybody would do that. I didn't even think of that. Like this is
What's another crazy one?
Like as far as like a thing that he did that
Mhm.
was like very surprising. Honestly, this is a funny one, but he's human. Like that's like a big one that I maybe didn't consider, because he really had a lot of interests that were outside of weightlifting. I'll say that this is a big surprising takeaway that I took out of it is he left the gym, and I mean, while his entire life was kind of focused around getting better at weightlifting, he didn't even like talking about weightlifting really that much. Like I'd try and like chop up a conversation, and I'd realize that like I was talking to him like a fan of weightlifting, and I don't think himself he's a fan of weightlifting. He's just an athlete that does weightlifting, and he really likes anime and coffee and whatever book he might be reading. It's like some sort of Lord of the Rings extended edition kind of thing, like all the ones nobody's heard of. Like he's into some nerdy kind of things, and like that's what he wanted to talk about. Like like he didn't really care about weightlifting. Like I don't know, like, and
Which is, go ahead.
I realize like so many of the conversations I have with other weightlifters, like here at Lindenwood or something, are like fan conversations. Like this is not what high level athletes like live real lives, and just like they kind of I feel like a lot of them leave the gym and then stop thinking about weightlifting. Like that's kind of what I realized.
Yeah, I mean, you have to have other things that keep you interested. Like if the sport is your full life and it takes up all of your brain space afterwards, I think it can lead to burning out, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. Like some people, that's just what they want it. That's just how they want to do it, you know? But yeah, like it's kind of funny because that 2021 Pan Am trip, that was also a meet that Hampton was on. Um,
Yeah.
and that was when I first met him as well, and we actually like hit it up because of we were both like reading like extensive like large books, and so that was kind of funny. And then him and TJ actually got along really well, because I think maybe I don't know, TJ's just a good dude, and was interested in the things that that Hampton was interested in, and they chopped it up pretty well, I guess.
Yeah, Hampton's an interesting guy because like simultaneously he is like a killer that will like do whatever it takes to win, like crazy like Michael Jordan competitiveness, but also you just cannot hate him. Like you nobody like how could you dislike him? Like even like his competitors like Lee Fa Bin's like giving him a Team China singlet and they love him apparently. Like that's what Tripp's telling me. Like yeah, they love him in China. They want him to beat Lee almost. Like I'm like what? Like
That's crazy.
um yeah, like just like things like that. Like he's so likable. Like there's nothing like you just can't
He's
discount
so
him. Like
likable.
except when you play Monopoly against him, I will say that. Like it's hard to like him when he's like beating the smoke out of you for Monopoly. But
Yeah, I mean, like, don't judge a man by how he acts when he's playing Monopoly. I'm sure and I'm going to go and say, I know that I'm not a good person when I play Monopoly. It brings out the worst in people.
a separate trip, me and James, my teammate James, went there for about a week, and we actually teamed up against him in Monopoly. So we were literally just working together to try and beat Hampton, and both could not beat Hampton. Still, he still won, which was pretty
Dang.
crazy. But like we were just like making trades that made no sense. Like why would you
Yeah.
make that? Like just to like team up against him. Like James would land on my square, and I'd just be like, yeah, I'm not gonna charge you. Don't worry. Like, um,
couldn't
but
couldn't
somehow he still
couldn't
won.
stack it up still.
Yeah. So a lot of really cool like just human experiences. Like I think that's like a big takeaway. Like training was pretty normal. Like
Yeah.
he wasn't doing anything crazy. He wasn't training 3 times a day. I mean, he was getting a lot of like tradition, like what you think of athletes getting done, like as far as you know, going to a PT and getting kind of work done on him, or doing different recovery methods. Like he's doing a lot of that. Honestly, his day is pretty busy for basically just being focused on weightlifting, eating, and recovering from weightlifting. His day is pretty busy. It was very low stress. That's one thing I take away from that is during the time period I was there, I was like the least stressed I had ever been. Like it was crazy. It was so helpful for, just my mental health in that time. Even like I was like had no problems. It's like a vacation, but like even more so in some
A,
ways because I
a
just get to focus.
traincation.
I get to focus on training and just like really, I don't know, training and learning and I don't know. It was like not a lot else mattered during that time.
What were some of the big things that you learned from Trip?
Yeah, so his dad, I will say, like Hampton, like I said, he didn't like talking about training that much. Didn't talk a lot about weightlifting, but his dad would get going on a certain topic to like really try and one to just educate me. I think he could tell I was really curious about how they did things. So sometimes I wouldn't even have to ask, and he'd maybe start going on about a certain topic, and I would be really interested. But um, like learning that, I think like while they approach it almost like Hampton's like a science experiment to like be the best weightlifter without steroids or whatever, um, he's still just like an organism. Like humans are organisms, and they don't respond always how you think they would. And how when Hampton has PRs like is predictable ish in a way, in the same way it would be for anybody else, but even tracking everything, they still don't know when those PRs are happening for sure. They're still random. They'll still happen on the most like a Tuesday where he was just supposed to do 2 clean and 2 jerk, but somehow he hits a PR clean and jerk, even though he had the craziest 3 days before that, and was training like max out the day before, and there's it's just like there's still like training is like an art and a mystery still, and nobody knows everything. And like I said, kind of all standing on shoulders of giants. Like all his programs are just you know other people's programs combined and other people's methods and different things combined into what is Hampton's program, as well as things that they've tried and implemented themselves, that they see to work or not work. But yeah, taking like a scientific approach to training is pretty important, and I think like tracking data. It's like if you were trying to lose weight and you didn't track any of the things you ate, and you didn't even look at the scale to see if you were losing weight. Maybe you feel like you're losing weight, but like I don't know, that might work for some people, like just to try and eat less consciously. But if you actually want to optimize things, like you better be tracking some data. You better be, um, keeping track of what you're doing and how much it's moving the needle on a certain value.
Yeah.
Um, and so there's a lot of really easy ways to do that, like just journaling, or doing a readiness questionnaire, like we have on Train Heroic with our programs, and our coaching is all through Train Heroic. Just seeing long-term changes in readiness questionnaire, like a subjective readiness questionnaire, is really valuable.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that was totally. I mean, while Lindenwood, started my weightlifting career, and going to Lindenwood was very fundamental. Training with Hampton really changed how I viewed everything, and it also Trip kind of gave me a lot of confidence in my own abilities, um, and changed a few things about how I train. Because I realized how heavy Hampton was going, how often, and I realized maybe I was capable of pushing things harder, more often, that my body would recover if I gave it the right nutrition and the right rest and recovery, and that I wasn't fragile, and that also um, Trip, in a way, like kind of hyped me up a lot. Like he really did give me confidence, which I think is what a good coach does. But sometimes good coaches do also forget to tell athletes what they maybe are capable of, and that's kind of like a lot of what Trip did. Like he just really like boosted my confidence with how good of a weightlifter he thought I could be, and I really, for a while when I first left Hamptons, I originally thought I actually did an interview with somebody in Paris who was from St. Louis. They were interviewing people with like Olympic related stories from St. Louis, and I was like, I don't know, my experience training with Hampton, like I come out of it and I'm like, I don't want that. I mean, like I want to go to college. I want to, you know, have a lot of experiences that maybe Hampton doesn't have because he has less balance. And that's a choice he makes consciously, is to have less balance to be better at weightlifting. It's another thing his dad talked about with me, is that conversation they had. Hey, like you can be a good weightlifter with more balance, or you can be an amazing high-level elite international weightlifter with a lot less balance. Like, what's your choice? And for me, when I heard that, I'm like, yeah, my choice is I want balance. But I thought that meant I also couldn't get to the high level, I think, in a way. And
Mm.
so I definitely over time I realized that, because at first I'm like, dude, I don't want to want to live like Hampton, like like I want all these other things out of life. I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket as far as weightlifting, like. Um, but yeah, I slowly realized that you can have both for a very long time, and to a very high degree, and that this is the time in my life in
Hmm.
college, in a college program, with minimal dependent people on me. I don't have a wife. I don't have a baby. I don't have to pay bills right now. Like, this is the time to push training really hard and see what I'm capable of, and then I will have time for those other things later on in my life. Um, so it sort of it really fired me up for training, and I had the worst training in Spain ever, which was funny. Immediately after training with him, I had the worst training ever in my life in Spain. Just eating very little food. It's hard to get calories in, hard to stay hydrated, walking a ton, like 20,000 steps a day, drinking a ton actually, and I come back from that to the school year, and I think I immediately almost went from like a 150 or 152 clean and jerk to 170 in the matter of just a couple months. Like, I really approached my training a lot differently. I approached my recovery, my sleep, my nutrition a lot differently than I did before training with Hampton, and it really, really paid off. To make like a 20-kilo increase on clean and jerk in just a few months is like, I feel like, unheard of for most people that have been training. At least, like, I was training 2 years at that point. To make that kind of a jump, like, that's a good total, like, increase on your total in a year.
Yeah.
Um, and I, put it on my clean and jerk in just a few months, and it was just crazy progress. Like, kind of applying, a lot of the things that I was realizing, and especially outside of the gym. It's a lot more outside of the gym than it was inside the gym.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah,
I always joke that 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 your free space on a bingo card for this podcast is bringing up the Hampton trip. So
yeah.
genuinely, somebody could probably go back and do a supercut of this, but like every single time that you bring him up on an episode, if you cut to my camera, I'm probably like smiling a little bit because like every single time I can't help but think about that's my free space.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, yeah, that just shows how much it's like bled into how I approach or how I think about training and how training should be done.
Yeah,
Because I
absolutely.
think I think Hampton really does, like, he's like the epitome of like someone who is doing everything right. So it's just a n equals one, case study kind of thing. Like, it's not just because he does something that doesn't mean that it's good. But damn, I mean, if somebody like him is doing something, there's a pretty good dang chance that they've looked into its effectiveness,
Yeah.
and it's worth it. It's worth your time to consider it, most likely. But
And
also, you're not him, so
and I think maybe another good takeaway from that too is like go and study other athletes and coaches.
yeah,
Whether you can do that in person, doesn't have to be an Olympian. And an amateur lifter could probably learn a lot of things from staying with you for a week, right? And I mean, just as much as you can learn a lot staying from an Olympian. But then, it's also coaches. Like, go talk to other coaches, get different backgrounds and experiences. Like, that's one kind of key thing that I've noticed from a lot of really high level coaches is that they are constantly talking to other coaches and learning from each other and asking questions and like being involved. And I think that that's probably a big takeaway there too. Is like if you want to get good at this, like training is a part of it, but learning is another big part of it. And if you can put yourself in more situations where you can learn something, it will have a positive effect. You just don't know what it's going to be yet.
basically, like, every single good coach I've heard talk about their experience in weightlifting has a time where there's kind of varying degrees of it. Like, a lot of coaches literally packed up their entire lives to move across the country and took a huge risk to live with another coach and learn from them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not saying anybody needs to do that in order to be a good coach, but there's varying degrees of that. Like, oh, I studied under so and so and learned exactly how they do everything for like
Yeah.
a year while I was living in this place. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you have to have mentorship. Like, coaching isn't learned by just experimenting on the athletes that are in front of you.
Yeah.
Like, it's learned from other coaches that have done it successfully for a long time and also do that networking and also reach out to other coaches. And I think, yeah, biggest takeaway, like, how did this all happen? Like, I didn't, let's go back to maybe the Lindenwood story. I didn't get to Lindenwood because I was really trying hard to get a college scholarship for weightlifting and go to Lindenwood. I tried to get better at something I cared about and that I was already passionate about, or that I found out I was passionate about, which was weightlifting. And I loved the like, niche, like get better, like what, no, there's no information, very little information about how to get better at this thing. I'm going to try and figure out and how to get better at it. I love that challenge, that puzzle. So I just pursued the thing I was passionate about, and I engaged in the community that was there. So I posted a lot of videos weightlifting, and that led to a lot. And not only did I post videos weightlifting and stuff, but eventually reaching out to other athletes that are doing a good job and just saying, "Hey, good job," and look at the opportunity that led to. I got to freaking train with an Olympian for a month, and then I went back again, and we're planning our next trip soon here to get some good training in. And yeah, it's like don't like ever like become like passive in your approach towards the things you're involved in. That might be school, that might be weightlifting, that might be another sport, that might be coaching. But if you, as soon as you become passive and like inactive, that's when you aren't opening up that surface area for luck, kind of like what Brian was saying. Like, a lot of these things might seem lucky, like, oh, I just happened to be the guy Hampton reached out to, but it wasn't. I was reaching out to him before that. Like, was he gonna just DM some random weightlifter? Probably not. Like, he's probably gonna talk to somebody he already kind of knew. I mean, he barely knew me, but he knew me enough to say, hey, this guy's really supportive. Like, I'm sure he'd be a good training partner. And so reaching out to people, just commenting on somebody's lift. You
Yeah.
would be surprised at how much of a difference that could make, or how many connections that could open up in the future.
Yeah, I think maybe a good takeaway there is just like, don't let yourself get passive. Don't let life start happening to you, because that's kind of when that's when things start to feel bad. Like, that's when you feel like you don't have any control over your life. That's when it gets rough. Every single time in my life where I've had really rough experiences, that's almost always been the case. Is I've gotten passive and I let life happen to me, and then I feel like I'm kind of like slipping behind, right? As opposed to doing what you can to be active and engaged, and even if that just means like commenting on some people's stuff or DMing people every now and then, like try and find something every day that you could do that's an active way to engage in the sport of weightlifting, and it's gonna lead to something. I don't know what.
Perhaps even commenting on the podcast that you're listening to right now could be, who knows what that could lead to.
Who knows what that
um,
could lead to,
Perhaps liking and subscribing and leaving us a 5-star review would change your life.
Hey, who knows what could happen? Who knows what could happen? All right, let's leave it there. Do all the things that Calvin just said. And Calvin, where can people find you?
At Calvin Lackey, 81 kg on everything.
And you guys can find me at Big Ben Strength on everything. Please make sure to check out our programs, coaching stuff, linked in the description below. Helps us kind of make sure to post more podcasts and interviews with great athletes, and get more helpful weightlifting content out to you guys. So please do that, and we'll catch you guys next week. Bye.
If you found this video helpful, then make sure to check out this video here, or this episode of the Last Set, Best Set podcast.